Welcome, all my fellow Washington brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Washington football team fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Washington Football Report exclusive limited series positional rankings. We've knocked down the first of 4 divisional or positional rankings on the defensive side of the football. We've already tackled the defensive line. Now we're going to talk about the guys backing those defensive linemen, which is their namesake, the linebackers. And it's probably the most troublesome position on the defense for the Washington football team as they head into the season. Now, it may ultimately turn into a strength. We don't know. But as of right now, on paper, it's not a group that impresses anyone. And it can be a cause for concern if you're a fan out there worried about depth. So we'll talk about where they rank in the division, and then we'll talk about where they rank overall in the NFL. Let's take a look at first where the Washington football team's linebacking core ranks within the NFC East. So you take a look at the team that I think brings up the rear, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles. They've never given a shit about linebacker play and the quality of linebackers. This goes all the way back to their last defensive coordinator, who just simply could care less about linebackers. They throw 2 or 3 guys out there and they keep it pushing. And so that's never been a big problem for them or something they really divulged a lot of resources into. And so this is the byproduct of that. This is what you get when you don't put a lot of resources into your linebacker position. You get a bunch of guys, randos. That's what they have here. None of these guys move the needle at all whatsoever. None of these guys scare you. None of these guys are impact players. They're just guys. They're Jags. And so they're going to have to play around them, but they've always done that in Philadelphia. They've always gotten around average to below average linebacker play. So this isn't new news. They're the last linebacking core in the division, and honestly, I don't think it's very close. So you get to the next team in the division, and it's the Giants, who are third with their linebacking core. They just got a bunch of stuff. Now, their stuff is kind of jumbled together. You know, it's a bunch of guys that are Swiss Army knives that can do different things. Some of these guys are better as pass rushers. Remember, they play a 3-4, so some of these guys are better off the ball linebackers. Some of these guys are great at blitzing. Some of these guys are great in coverage. They're long, they're athletic. Everyone has a different role that they can play. But the glue that holds all of this together and the reason that they're not dead last, one, they got more talent than the Eagles, so they wouldn't have been last anyway. But the guy that holds this thing together is Blake Martinez. And because they have Blake Martinez, they have a group that you put 2 other guys next to Blake Martinez or 1 other guy next to Blake Martinez when you're in a nickel, and you're going to be fine. Because Blake Martinez is a leader. He gets everybody lined up. He's usually around the action. He's a tackling machine. He's a guy that you can trust defensively to make the right calls, get everybody lined up. And so Blake Martinez completes this group. He makes this group acceptable. Okay, now they've got stuff, and they've got some athletic guys, and if they can stay healthy and they can figure out what guys do what best. Patrick Graham did a phenomenal job, their defensive coordinator, of getting the most out of what they had. Now they've got even more talent. We'll see. A lot of it, though, still isn't here at the linebacker position, even though they've got some stuff. They sure do love shopping at the Georgia store. They've got so many different Georgia linebackers on this roster, it's not even funny. But if those Georgia players start to play like they're back at the SEC, this linebacker core could change things for this Giants football team. But right now, they're the 3rd best linebacking core in the division. And the first linebacking core in the division are the Dallas Cowboys. I just think the talent at this position for the Cowboys is phenomenal. And again, when I do this, I assume health. Now, obviously, Leighton Vander Esch can't stay healthy to save his life. Similar to the last linebacker that they had that was uber talented, that everybody said, man, this guy's good, but he's never healthy. In Sean Lee, Leighton Vander Esch is very similar in that regard. Super talented. When he's healthy, he's a difference maker, but he's always hurt. That said, Leighton Vander Esch is a talent. So is Jalen Smith. I've heard a lot of Cowboys fans complain about Jalen Smith. He's this, he's that, he's not this, he's not that. I'd take Jalen Smith off your hands if you don't want him. I'd surely take him in a heartbeat because you can do a lot of things with a guy that big and that fast. So Jalen Smith is a talent. And Michael Parsons, we all know what he is. Now, again, I told you I don't really like including rookies in this discussion, but he's different. He's Michael Parsons. I'm not going to, because we got a rookie too. And I'm not going to include him in the discussion because we don't know. We don't know about Michael Parsons, although I think I know. Anyway, Keanu Neal is going to make the switch from safety to linebacker, which a lot of Washington fans wanted Landon Collins to do. Well, Keanu Neal, unlike Landon Collins, who has gotten a massive payday and has cut his teeth in this league as a safety, can dictate whether he's willing to make the change or not. Keanu Neal is trying to extend his career. Right now, he's viewed as a guy on the fringe of being out of the league because he hasn't been able to stay healthy and he hasn't separated himself as a dominant safety. So he's got to be able to be malleable and flexible, and whatever the coaches ask him to do, he's got to be willing to do it if he wants to stay in the league and continue to collect a check. So he's making the switch. So, and then you look at Jabril Cox, another rookie that they got in the draft that's really talented out of LSU. This is the most talented linebacker group in the NFC East, and I don't think it's really close at this point. So the Cowboys are number one, and that takes us back to home base, where the Washington football team comes in second. As you can see the group there on the screen in front of you on the TV as it continues to flash. It's a group that lacks a ton of depth. I think that's the thing that scares us the most as fans is, if we got to tap into this depth, things could get pretty ugly. But I love the frontline talent that this group has. We think that there are some guys that could step up this year and have a major role on the defensive side of the football, including Khaleke Hudson, who in some opportunities last year took full advantage. He had a game against the Seahawks last year where he had like 15 tackles. The guy has shown the ability to have a nose for the football, and he's got playmaker ability. So we think he's got a chance to step up this year. Obviously, Jamin Davis, the first-round pick. Cole Holcomb, to me right now, is the guy that we hang our hat on and say, hey, we got Cole Holcomb. He's our Blake Martinez in terms of a guy that you look at and say, super talented, a guy that's dependable, that we know if he's on the field, he's going to make plays. So right now, Cole Holcomb is the one guy we can lay claim to. John Bostic is not a bad backup linebacker. I know a lot of people can't stand John Bostic, but it's good to have him as a backup. If he's starting, that's problematic. But if he's coming off the bench in a reserve role, I think that is a perfect opportunity for him to really be impactful when he has to come in the game, to be able to just slide in for a few snaps, slide in for a game or two, and us not miss a beat. So between all of those guys and then a couple of veterans, David Mayo on the bench, it gets a little dicey after those first few. But the immediate talent is what has Washington second, because the other teams in the division don't have that kind of talent. They don't have Jamin Davis. The only team that has that in the division outside of Washington is Dallas, and they've got more talent than Washington does. But the only team in the division that has anything that looks like Jamin Davis, that looks like what Washington, Cole Holcomb, who's another 4-4 guy, the only team that has that is Dallas, and they've got multiple guys that do that. So Washington is second, the Giants are third, and the Eagles bring up the rear. So Washington's second in the division. Where do they rank overall in the league? Washington ranks 17th overall in the league. I'll go through the list very quickly of teams that they are better than or worse than in the league. So the Arizona Cardinals have a better linebacking core than Washington. All right, they just drafted a guy that a lot of you wanted in Zaven Collins. They got Isaiah Simmons the year before that in the draft. They've got more talent at the linebacker position than Washington does. Washington's better than the Atlanta Falcons. Baltimore Ravens have more talent at linebacker. Drafted Patrick Queen last year in the first round. The man had over 100 tackles last year for the Ravens, and that was with them not having as much confidence in him in the beginning of the season, and he still went over 100 tackles. Not to mention some of the other guys that they have at the linebacker position that they drafted. Another guy from Ohio State. They're loaded at linebacker. Buffalo Bills, you know how I feel about them. I wanted one of their linebackers in free agency, and Matt Milano. He went back to Buffalo. They got Tremaine Edmonds, a guy I wanted us to draft when we took Daron Payne. They've got better linebackers than Washington. Carolina Panthers. They have better linebacker play. They got Shaq Thompson. That right there in itself is enough to just put us on notice. But then you look at the rest of the group of linebackers that they have. They got Denzel Perryman from the Chargers. They got another guy that's a quality linebacker in there as well. They got better linebacker play right now. Now, this is subject to change. Obviously, next year we do this list, and it could be completely different. But right now, we've got unproven guys. We don't have depth. So there are teams out there that are in a better position than us right now. Chicago Bears, another one of those teams. They've got Roquan Smith. They got Danny Trevathan. Enough said. Move on. You go to the Bengals. We're better than them. Browns, we're better than them. Cowboys, we already talked about that. They're better than us. Broncos, they're better than us as well. Josie Jewell, their middle linebacker, similar to Blake Martinez, one of those glue guys, over 100 tackles, one of those guys that's very dependable. They've got a number of different guys. Alexander is another guy that's really talented, very dependable. They're better than us right now. The Lions, we're better than them. Packers, we're better than them. Texans, we're better than them. Colts, we are not better than them. I looked at the linebacker position. I said, if you've got a stud backer and there's just one more guy, you're good. You got us. We got nothing for you. Well, they've got a stud dude, okay? They've got Darius Leonard. Never, ever trust a man with two first names. And then they've got Bobby Okereke, and they've got other dudes. But you just throw in another guy with a stud, you got us. And they got that. Jacksonville Jaguars. I just said, you got a stud, and then you throw in another dude, you got us. They got Miles Jack, and they got Joe Schobert. Done. They got us. Chiefs. No, we're better than them. Chargers. They got so many linebackers, it's not even funny. So I don't even need to go down the list, but they drafted a guy in the first round last year out of Oklahoma. He's a beast. I don't need to do that. The Chargers they're like Dallas. They just got a wealth of talent at the linebacker position. We're not better than them. Rams, we're better than them. Raiders, we're better than them. Dolphins, they got us. Okay, they got just more depth and more talented guys than we can put on the football field. They go about 3 or 4 deep. We just can't touch them. They got us. The Vikings, they got us. They got Anthony Barr and they got Eric Kendricks. Done. End of story. Patriots, they got us. They got a ton of stuff as well at the linebacker position. You know, they stay strapped at the linebacker position. If nothing else, they can't get after the quarterback. They never have any guys on the defensive line that scare you. But boy, did they stay strapped at linebacker, and they always got a corner or two as well. So they got us there. We're better than the Saints. We're better than the Giants. We're better than the Jets. We're better than the Eagles. We're better than the Steelers. The 49ers, they got us. You know, Fred Warner is one of my favorite players. He's one of the best linebackers in the league. You throw in Dre Greenlaw. Why are we having this discussion? You go to the Seahawks. They got Bobby Wagner. I just said, if you got a stud and then you throw in one more dude, well, they drafted the linebacker out of Texas Tech last year, Jordan, I can't remember his last name, but Jordan Brooks. They've got Jordan Brooks, and they've got a future Hall of Famer in Bobby Wagner. Enough said. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're the best. They might be the best linebacker core in all of football. Devin White might be the best linebacker in all of football. And, you know, Levante David is one of the more underrated linebackers in football. I rest my case, and we're better than the Tennessee Titans. So that's how we ended up in 17th. And it could easily be 20th, 21st. I mean, there were some other teams that were close, but ultimately that's how we got to Washington being the 17th best linebacking core in all of football. God forbid anything happens from an injury standpoint. This may not be the final product for Washington. We've had these discussions already, and we could easily see someone in camp release a player that Washington has their eye on, and you should get the end of the preseason and the end of the preseason and cuts are made. Washington could go and scoop a player or two from someone else's team that got cut and add them to this team as depth. But as it stands right now, we got a talented group, but the depth is lacking. But the talent is definitely there, and it gives us a chance. We'll see what happens with the Washington football team and their linebackers. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Leave your comments down in the comment section of this video. Do you agree with me? You disagree with me? Where do you think I went wrong? What do you think I got right? Whatever the case may be. What do you think about the linebacker position overall? Leave it down in the comment section along with a like and a sub, and hit that notification bell as well if you haven't done that. I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington football team. That's where Washington ranks in the league, 17th and 2nd in the NFC East. What says you? Leave it in the comment section. When we do this again next time, we'll jump into the secondary and we'll take a hard, long look at the cornerback position. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T. You guys have a good one.
LouieTeeNetwork.